The silent auction asterisk. The alien market on Zarquin 6 smelled like rust and fire. Metal cages lined the cold stone floor. Chains rattled. Creatures of all kinds were trapped, some growling, some crying, some sitting in silence. In the far corner of the auction block, a young alien girl sat curled up, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. Her skin was pale blue, her long silver hair tangled and dirty. A dark collar blinked red around her neck. She didn't cry. She didn't move. Her golden eyes stared at the floor, empty of hope. Her name was Siva, and she believed she was going to die. Buyers walked past her cage, laughing, pointing, making cruel jokes. She's too thin. Probably can't even stand. She looks broken. The slave master shouted, "Strong blood, a rare species. Useful for testing, labor, or private punishment." The crowd laughed. Siva didn't flinch. She'd heard it all before. She had been passed from one owner to another, each one worse than the last. Each one treating her not like a person, but a thing. She thought she knew what would come. Next, pain, darkness, chains. Then someone stepped forward. He wasn't like the others. A human, older, quiet, wearing a long coat and dark gloves. His hair was short and gray at the sides. His face was calm, but his eyes were serious, like he was searching for something. The crowd went quiet as he walked past other cages without stopping. Then he stood in front of Siva's. The slave master grinned. Not many humans here today. You want her? Cheap price. She's nearly useless, but quiet. Easy to break." The human didn't speak. He simply looked at Siva. She met his eyes for the first time, and something inside her paused. He didn't look hungry like the others. He didn't look cruel. He looked sad. The man reached into his coat and pulled out a data chip. "I'll take her." The slave master blinked. "You sure?" "Now," the man said firmly. The master shrugged. "She's yours. No refunds." The cage door opened with a heavy click. Siva didn't move. The man stepped closer. "Come," he said softly. She didn't trust his voice. No one ever spoke softly at the market. Still, her body obeyed. She stood up slowly, weakly, and stepped out of the cage. For the first time in years, there was no chain around her wrists. The market lights faded behind them as the man led her to a quiet ship outside the walls. It was small, older, with paint peeling at the sides. But it was clean, real, safe. Inside, the lights were dim and warm. The man showed her to a small seat and strapped her in. Still, she said nothing. Still, she waited for the pain to start. As the ship rose into the sky, leaving the market behind. Siva gripped the edge of the chair. The man walked into the back room and returned holding a blanket. He placed it gently around her shoulders. She flinched, but he didn't grab her. He only said, "It's warm. You look cold." Then he left her alone. The ship flew for hours. Siva didn't sleep. She sat, eyes wide, staring at the door, waiting for him to return and hurt her. But he never did. Later, he came back with a tray. Food. Real food. Not the stale pills given to slaves. He placed it in front of her. "You should eat." She didn't move. He nodded and sat across the room, sipping from a small cup. Minutes passed in silence. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and rough. "Why aren't you hurting me?" The man looked at her, surprised. "I didn't buy you to hurt." "You? Then why?" He took a long breath. "Because I saw someone who needed help." She stared at him. "You don't even know me." "No," he said, "but I know what it's like to be alone." Siva looked down at the food. Her hands shook. Tears filled her eyes, but didn't fall. She picked up a small piece and ate. For the first time in a long time. It didn't taste like ash. That night, as the ship drifted through deep space, Siva curled up on a soft blanket in a small room with a door that wasn't locked. The man checked on her once. She opened her eyes. He smiled gently. "My name's David," he said. Then he closed the door from the outside. Not to trap her, but to give her peace. And for the first time in her life, Siva fell asleep without fear. The ride to nowhere, the ship moved quietly through the stars, its engines humming like a low whisper in the dark. Inside, Siva sat on a soft floor mat in the corner of her room, her knees pulled close to her chest. She hadn't spoken since yesterday. She hadn't needed to. Everything around her felt wrong, too calm, too kind. She had spent her whole life surrounded by cruelty, fear, and cold orders. And now, this strange human named David had given her a bed, food, and space. No chains. No shouting. No pain. Siva didn't understand it, and she didn't trust it. She watched the door, expecting it to open with a blade behind it. But instead, it opened with a knock. Soft. David stepped in, holding a tray with something warm on it. "Made breakfast," he said. "You don't have to eat, but you should." He set the tray down on a small table near her, then stepped back without waiting. No pressure. No threat. Just an offer. Siva looked at the food. Real bread, warm broth, something that smelled sweet. She waited 10 minutes after he left before she touched it. She ate in small bites slowly, her eyes never leaving the door. Later, she explored the ship. Quietly, carefully. There were no cameras watching her. No laser locks. Just rooms, tools, books, plants, strange machines. She paused in front of a metal wall covered in small pictures. Photos. One showed David, much younger, smiling with a small human girl. They were standing in front of a tall tree. Another photo showed the same girl, older, wearing a flight suit, laughing. The last one showed just the tree, alone. No people. Siva touched the edge of that picture with one finger, her chest tightening. That night, she couldn't sleep. The silence felt heavy. Too different from the crying, the noise, the alarms of her old life. She got up, barefoot, and walked into the main control room. David was there, sitting with his back to her, watching stars move across the screen. He didn't turn when she entered. "I didn't expect you to come out tonight," he said softly. She didn't reply. She looked at the screen. Endless stars. Endless black. She whispered, "Where are we going?" He smiled. "Nowhere." She frowned. "Nowhere?" David nodded. "Just away." She stepped closer. "You don't have a plan?" He shook his head. "Not yet." "Why not?" He looked at her for the first time. "Because I wanted to give you space. Safety. I figured the rest could wait." Siva sat down slowly on the floor beside him. "What if I ran?" she asked. David shrugged. "Then I'd hope you ran somewhere better." Siva stared at him. Number owner had ever said something like that. Most wouldn't care if she lived or died, as long as she obeyed. "Why are you kind?" she asked. David sighed. "Because the galaxy has enough monsters." Siva went quiet again. David reached over and handed her something. A small cloth. She unfolded it. Inside was a tiny metal charm. A star carved into a coin. "My daughter made that," he said. "When she was young. Said it was for good luck." Siva blinked. "What happened to her?" He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "She died in a raid. Years ago." Siva looked at the charm. "I'm sorry," she said. David nodded. "Me too." Back in her room, Siva stared at the coin in her hand. A human had trusted her with something precious and hadn't asked for anything in return. That night, she slept with the charm under her pillow, still afraid, but less alone. The next day, she woke up and walked to the kitchen without fear. David was there, reading from a glowing screen. She sat at the table without being told. He looked up, surprised, then smiled. Morning. Siva nodded for the first time. She asked him a question. What's it like on Earth? He told her stories about trees, about water that falls from the sky, about food that grows in the ground. She listened, wide-eyed. Then she whispered, "Do you think I'll ever see it?" David smiled again. "If you want to." But far away, in a syndicate ship orbiting another moon, a red light blinked on a tracker panel. One of their lost slaves had triggered. A small signal. An energy pulse. Weak. But alive. The officer stared at the screen and grinned. "Found you." The truth in the dark asterisk. The ship was quiet again. Darkness wrapped around the halls like a soft blanket. Most lights had dimmed for sleep mode. But Siva was wide awake. She lay on the small bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. She couldn't sleep. She didn't know why. Her body was safe, warm, fed. But her mind still whispered old fears. They'll come. They always come. The charm David gave her rested on the table beside her pillow. She stared at it for a long time. It felt strange in her hand, small, smooth, and kind. No edges, no sharp points. Something not made to her. She got up quietly and tiptoed out of her room. The ship made soft hums as she moved. She followed the sound to the control room. She saw him there. David. Sleeping in his chair. His coat was wrapped around him. His arms were crossed. His head leaned back, and he looked tired. Not just from lack of sleep, but from something heavier. Then something strange happened. He started to murmur in his sleep. At first, the words were soft, then clearer. No. Please. Die. Alia. He shifted in the seat, his face full of pain. Siva froze. She stepped closer, very slowly. He was dreaming of someone. A name. Elia. Was that his daughter? Suddenly, he gasped. He whispered, "I couldn't save her." Then silence. Siva stood there, heart thudding. She had seen many humans in her life. Most of them cruel, cold, loud. But David? He cried in his sleep. She quietly backed away and returned to her room. For the first time, she didn't feel afraid of him. She felt something else. Something she didn't have a name for. In the morning, David was already up, cooking again. The smell of something warm filled the air. Siva walked in. He turned, smiling. "You're getting up earlier every day." She nodded and sat down. He poured a warm drink into a cup and slid it toward her. They sat in silence for a bit. Then she said, "You were dreaming last night." David looked surprised. "You were up?" She nodded slowly. "I heard you say her name, Elia." He paused. The room got quiet. He sat down across from her. "She was my daughter," he said softly. Siva waited. He didn't speak like most humans. No shouting, no forcing. Just calm truth. She wanted to be a pilot. Like me, he said. She was brave. Smarter than I ever was. "What happened?" Siva asked. "There was a raid. A syndicate scout ship hit our outpost. She was there. I wasn't." He looked away. "By the time I got back, there was nothing left." Siva's eyes softened. Her chest felt heavy. She whispered, "I'm sorry." He nodded. "Me too." They didn't speak for a while after that, but something between them changed. They were not just a human and a slave anymore. They were two people with wounds, and maybe they weren't so different. Later that day, Siva offered to help clean one of the rooms. David handed her tools. She fixed small things, wires, buttons, broken panels. She was good with her hands. She always had been. Her last owner used her to fix weapons. They never trained her, but she learned fast. David watched her. "You're talented," he said. She looked confused. "No one ever told you that before?" She shook her head. "Then they were fools," he said. In the evening, she walked to the mirror in the bathroom. She pulled up her sleeve and looked at her arm. Something faint glowed under the skin. Small white lines. Curved like rivers. She frowned. She had seen them before long ago, but didn't know what they meant. Suddenly, the lines pulsed. Just for a second. A soft energy moved through them, almost like they were reacting to something. She gasped. She ran to David, showed him her arm. He studied it carefully. These aren't scars. I don't know what they are. He looked closer. This looks like a design. A map? A map? She repeated. Maybe. Or maybe a code. Something old. Biological tech, maybe. Her heart beat faster. I don't remember getting them. David nodded slowly. But they're part of you. That means someone might be looking for them. She looked at him, scared. You think they'll come? I think we should be ready, he said. Far away, in a hidden control room on a syndicate ship, a red light blinked on a tracking console. A signal, faint but familiar. A voice said, "We found her." The map on her back. David worked quietly in the ship's engine room, adjusting wires and checking fuel levels. Sparks flickered as he welded a small panel shut. The soft hum of the ship's systems echoed around him like a heartbeat. He didn't notice Siva at first. She stood just outside the doorway, one arm crossed tightly over the other. "David," she said softly. He turned and saw the look on her face, troubled, unsure. She stepped inside, pulled up her sleeve, and showed him. Glowing lines again. They got brighter, she said. Last night, and again this morning. David wiped his hands on a cloth and leaned closer. The marks glowed softly under her skin. They weren't random. They curved and connected like old circuitry. But there were no implants. No scars. Just natural light. He traced one line with his finger carefully, gently. Then he looked at her. "I've seen something like this before. In old war records," he said. "Only once." She blinked. "What is it?" "Aurelian biomapping." Her heart skipped. "Aurelian? That's a myth." David shook his head. "Not a myth. Just hidden. The Aurelians were a peaceful race long ago. Smart. Kind. They stored knowledge in living beings' memories. Tech, even locations." He paused. "I think you were made to remember something." Siva backed away, confused. "No, that can't be. I was born in a cage. I was property." David stood. "That doesn't mean you weren't something else before. They could have taken you as a baby, wiped your memory." She touched her arm again. "Then, what's inside me?" David's face was serious. "A message, a key, or a map someone wanted to hide." Outside, the ship's radar blinked. An unknown signal echoed across the dark sky. Faint, fast, almost silent, but not silent enough. David walked to the console and tapped a few keys. A small symbol flashed on screen. Syndicate. Frequency detected. His chest tightened. "They're scanning for you." Siva looked at the radar. "They found me?" "Not yet, but they're close." "What do we do?" He looked at her. "We run." They jumped to hyperspace. The stars stretched around them like ribbons. David leaned over the console, breathing hard. He wasn't young anymore, but his mind was sharp. He pulled up the ship's star charts. "Your markings, if I'm reading them right, match a dead system called Alpha 9. Abandoned. Empty. But long ago, it was rumored to be a memory vault." Siva frowned. "A memory vault? A place where Aurelians stored the last of their tech before the syndicate wiped them out." She looked at her arm. "Then, why me?" He glanced at her, voice steady. "Because someone trusted you to carry the key." They dropped out of hyperspace near a cold gray planet. No signs of life. No signals. Just clouds and silence. They landed on a rocky plateau, covered in dust. Siva stepped outside first. Her marks glowed brighter than ever. The ground beneath her feet Pulse. David followed, his boots crunching against stone. Suddenly, the ground opened, a perfect circle of light forming beneath them. A staircase appeared, leading down into darkness. Siva's heart pounded. It remembers me. David grinned. Then, let's see what it wants to show us. They walked slowly into the underground vault. The walls shimmered with glowing crystals. Machines. Long asleep flickered to life. Then a voice echoed from the chamber walls. Soft. Female. Ancient. Carrier detected. Welcome. Siva froze. David looked at her in awe. The voice continued. Biological signature confirmed. Activation permitted. Suddenly, a panel on the wall opened. A beam of light scanned Siva's body from head to toe. She didn't move. Aurelian key, intact. David stepped closer. You really are one of them. Siva whispered, but I don't remember anything. The voice answered, you were not meant to remember, only to protect. The chamber lit. Up. A map of the galaxy hovered in mid-air. Stars blinked. Planets glowed. Symbols danced around Siva, like gentle fireflies. The vault had waited a long time. Now it had awakened. And so had she. But far above, hidden behind a nearby moon, a Syndicate scout ship hovered. A soldier stared at his screen. He watched as the vault's energy flared bright and impossible to miss. He pressed a button. A message was sent. A fleet began to move. Back in the vault, Siva looked at David, her voice low. They're coming, aren't they? He nodded. They won't let you stay free. Not with what's inside you. Siva stood taller. Then we don't run. David raised an eyebrow. No? She shook her head. Not anymore. She placed her hand on the glowing platform. I want to remember. Fire at the door. The vault trembled with light. The air felt thicker, warmer, like it was alive. Siva stood in the center, her arm glowing brighter than ever. She was no longer shaking, no longer unsure. For the first time, she felt like she belonged. Somewhere. David stood behind her, his weapon slung low on his shoulder, eyes watching the entrance. His soldier instincts were returning. The Syndicate wouldn't stay quiet for long, and he was right. Above the planet. Black ships appeared out of hyperspace. The Syndicate fleet. 7 vessels fast, silent, armed. They circled the dead world like vultures spotting prey. On the bridge of the largest ship, Commander Tarek Boss stared at the readings. Energy spike detected in the old vault, the officer beside him said. And Aurelian signal confirmed. Tarek's lips curled into a cruel smile. She's still alive. That's more than we hoped for. He raised a hand. Send ground units. I want the carrier alive. Back on the planet, David finished, setting up 2 defense drones near the vault entrance. He walked down the ramp where Siva waited. They're here, he said. She nodded, not surprised. I can feel it. David handed her a small ear device. If we get separated, talk to me. Through this. I'm not running, she said again. I didn't ask you to, he replied with a proud grin. The ground above rumbled. Siva and David climbed to the surface. Dark clouds gathered. Dropships landed across the cliffs, one after another. Their wings folded as Syndicate soldiers poured out, weapons glowing red, eyes cold and hidden behind helmets. David activated the defense drones. Twin beams shot from the rocks, forcing the first wave to scatter. But there were too many. Dozens. Then hundreds. Siva stepped forward, standing tall at the edge of the landing zone. I know what they want, she said. They want your mind, David answered. But they don't deserve even your memory. Commander Tarek landed in a black shuttle and stepped onto the battlefield, his long coat flapping in the wind. He saw her. You've changed, he said to Siva. You were nothing when we sold you. A cracked tool. And now look at you glowing. Like some holy treasure. Siva didn't move. You don't remember who you are, Tarek said. But I do. You are a container. A vault. A living box. You were made to be used, not free. David raised his blaster. She's free now. Tarek chuckled. Not for long. He raised his hand. All units capture her. The battlefield exploded. Drones flew. Lasers flashed. Smoke filled the sky. David fought like the old soldier he once was. Fast, smart, sharp. Every move was calculated. Every step was to protect Siva, but the enemy was too many. Siva didn't fight. She walked slowly toward the heart of the battle. Her skin glowed silver, the marks on her back lit up like stars. And then she stopped. She placed both hands on the ground. The energy from the vault responded instantly. A shockwave burst out in every direction. But it didn't destroy. It disabled. Syndicate weapons shut down. Suits powered off. Soldiers collapsed, confused and afraid. David stared in disbelief. You did that? Siva stood, eyes glowing softly. I don't want to kill anyone. I just want them to stop. Commander Tarek growled. You're not Aurelian. You're a stolen piece of trash. No. Siva replied. I'm the memory they tried to erase. She raised her arm toward him. The air bent. Tarek single quotes helmet cracked. He dropped to his knees, screaming as visions poured into his mind. Aurelian cities, children laughing, towers of light, peace destroyed by fire. He saw everything they had erased, and it crushed him. He passed out cold. Silence fell across the battlefield. David walked to Siva. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. I remembered. Enough. He looked around. The soldiers had stopped fighting. Some sat, some fled. The ones who remained stared at her like she was no longer just a slave. But something holy. The vault behind them pulsed with soft light. The old machines had spoken. The carrier had awakened. And the enemy had been silenced, not with death, but with truth. In the distance, syndicate ships turned and began to retreat. They had failed, and they were afraid. Siva sat down on a rock, tired but calm. David knelt beside her. You saved them. All of them, he said. She looked up at the stars. Maybe now I can be more than a memory box. David smiled. You already are. She wasn't just a slave. The stars above Elthra 9 were quiet again. The fires had burned out. The soldiers had left. Only wind moved across the rocky cliffs now. Siva sat on the edge of the ancient vault, her legs swinging gently, eyes fixed on the horizon. She looked calm. But inside her, the storm of memories had just begun to settle. Beside her, David checked his comms. No more enemy signals. No more alerts. The syndicate had vanished into the dark, too frightened to face what they had once owned. He looked over at her. You're different, he said softly. Siva nodded. I feel it. Since unlocking the vault, something had shifted inside her. The glowing lines on her arms had faded slightly, but they were still there, calm now. Like resting rivers. She remembered pieces of her forgotten. Time. Not names. Not places. But emotions. She had felt joy in tall crystal cities. She had run through bright gardens. She had spoken to hundreds of people with her mind connected by thought, not words. She remembered what it was like to be free, truly free. David sat beside her. The map in your skin? It led us here, he said. But it's more than just a map, isn't it? Siva nodded slowly. It's a message. A promise. From those who came before me. He looked at her hands. Why did they put it in someone so young? She smiled a little. Because children remember differently. They don't try to explain. They just feel. He chuckled. You're wiser than I thought. They spent the day inside the vault, exploring. Siva touched the walls and doors opened. Lights followed her footsteps. Machines, asleep for centuries, hummed with recognition. In one chamber, she found a recording. It played automatically when she entered. A tall Aurelian figure appeared, glowing faintly blue. Her voice was soft and ancient. If you are seeing this, the war is over. The cities are gone, and only memory remains. We chose one of our own to carry that memory forward, not to fight, but to remind. Siva froze as the figure continued. You, child, are not a weapon. You are a seed. And one day, you will help something grow again. David listened quietly. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Siva stood there, tears in her eyes. She had always believed she was nothing. Now she knew she had been everything someone once hoped. Later, while repairing the ship's hull, David turned to her and said, "So what happens now?" Siva thought for a moment. "I want to send a signal," she said. "From the vault. Not just to Aurelians, if any are left, but to anyone who's been used, broken, or forgotten. A message of hope?" She nodded. "A message that says, we remember you." That night, she walked back into the heart of the vault. She placed her hands on the same glowing stone that had opened it days ago. The ground pulsed. The stars overhead flickered. Then a signal burst across the galaxy, soft, bright, and wordless. Just a feeling, a beacon of peace, a call for healing. Far across the void, in hidden corners of space, people paused. In mining colonies, in hiding places, in ruined ships. The broken and the hunted looked up. And somehow, they felt it. A warmth, a memory, a girl's silent voice, reaching across the stars. David watched her from a distance. He saw him not a slave, not a lost girl, but something else now. A symbol, a light, and someone who had changed his life forever. Siva returned to him. "It's done," she said. David smiled. "Good." She looked around the valley. "We could stay here," she said. "Fix the place. Open it to others." He raised an eyebrow. "You want company?" She nodded. "Not just for me, for everyone like me, who needs a second chance." He gave a slow nod. "Then let's build it." As dawn touched the cliffs, Siva stood beside the human who had once bought her, not for use, not for pain, but for something the galaxy had nearly forgotten. Kindness. And together, they began something new. The human who gave her a future. Weeks passed. The ancient vault on Elthera 9 was no longer silent. Its long-forgotten halls now echoed with footsteps, laughter, and the sound of tools at work. The place that once held only memories was coming alive again, and at the heart of it all was Siva. She moved with confidence now. Not like a slave, not like someone afraid of being hurt, but like someone building a future with her own hands. David stood on the landing platform, tightening bolts on a solar panel. He looked down at the valley, now home to several small shelters. Survivors had begun to arrive, alien, human, hybrid, all drawn by the signal she had sent from the vault. Each one carried their own pain. Each one was looking for peace. And Siva welcomed them all. She taught the children how to listen to the walls, how the vault's ancient machines responded not just to touch, but to kindness. She helped the injured find rest. She sat with the broken, offering no orders, no expectations, just quiet understanding. And they followed her. Not because she commanded them, but because she had survived what they had survived, and still chose to be gentle. One evening, David sat with her under the open stars, a warm drink in his hand. "You've made this place into something," he said. "We did it together," she replied. He smiled. "Maybe, but it was your light that lit the fire." She looked at him. "I still don't remember my real name." David thought for a moment, then said, "Maybe you don't need it. Siva fits you now." She nodded. "It means memory in Aurelian. I think that's why they gave it to me." David raised his cup. "Then here's to memory, and what we do with it. Just then, a small shuttle landed near the edge of the platform. A young boy stepped out, wide-eyed and thin-dot behind him. A woman limped. Holding her side, Siva walked toward them. The boy stepped in front of his mother, trying to protect her. Siva kneeled down slowly. "You're safe now," she said gently. "No one will hurt you here." The boy didn't speak. But after a moment, he lowered his guard. The woman collapsed in relief, tears falling from her tired eyes. David watched silently. He remembered the day he first saw Siva cold, silent, locked. In a cage. Now she was the one setting others free. That night, Siva placed a hand on the wall of the vault again. It glowed faintly. A new message recorded itself. Her voice. "If you are hearing this, you are not alone. This place is open to all who were used, forgotten, or sold. You are more than what they told you. You are not broken. You are becoming." The vault shimmered with light as the message was stored. Later, she sat beside David on the roof of their small home. "Why did you do it?" she asked. He looked over. "Do what?" "Buy me." "Back then, at the auction." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Because I saw someone who reminded me of my daughter. Not in the way you looked, but in the way you refused to break." She looked down. "I thought you were going to hurt me." "I know," he said, "but I wasn't the one who needed to save you." She turned to him. "I think you saved me anyway." A soft breeze blew over them. Above, stars shimmered like they had the night she first arrived, but now they felt different. Now they felt like hers. David stood. "I'm not getting younger," he said, stretching his back. Siva laughed. "You still move faster than most of the kids here." He smiled and walked toward the entrance. Before going inside, he turned back. "Whatever happens next, you've already changed more than you know." Siva stayed outside a little longer. She watched as two new refugees walked through the gates. She smiled. "No chains. No collars. Only freedom. In the end, she was never just a carrier. Never just a slave. She was a spark from a lost people. A voice from the past, speaking into the future. And the human who had once bought her, not for power, not for pain, but out of kindness, had become the one person she trusted most in the galaxy. Together, they hadn't just escaped the past. They had built something better than freedom. They had built hope.